Welcome to Business Reporter's The Future of Retail campaign. I'm Rachel Hicks. Amazon announced that it was planning to open 3,000 bricks and mortar stores by 2021 in America. The ambitious plan proves that the utopia of a purely digital retail world won't become true in the near future. When the biggest e-commerce giants like Alibaba or Amazon conclude that flashy screens and hypnotic user interfaces are not enough to lure the customers, all investors, property developers and even governments should see the opportunity. The high street store does not dissipate, it merely changes form. Why do we need bricks and mortar stores? And what does the future of retail look like? That's what we're going to discuss now with Bill Kissler from ICSC. Tell me, why do we want physical shops in this day and age of internet shopping and everything being online?
Well, it's a perfectly reasonable question when every morning you read another headline about the demise of a retailer and the growth of e-commerce. The fact is e-commerce is still a relatively but fast-growing share of total purchases. But it's deeper than that. I believe that bricks and mortar, the shopping experience is in our DNA as people. It goes back to cities at the very beginning, the marketplace being the heart and soul of cities. And not just the exchange of goods, but getting the news, talking to the shopkeeper, meeting your friends. That doesn't happen from a screen. And I think the ability to interact with each other, with the shopkeeper at a restaurant, the experience, the engagement is much more powerful in a physical environment than it'll ever be from a screen.
Okay, so you're talking about our experience of engaging and of the social aspect of retail. Give us some examples of how that really has come to life.
A great example for me is the Nespresso Store, which, if you think about it, it's as much a showcase as it is a store, but you smell the product, you get to taste the product. If you buy it, that's great. If you don't, they frankly don't care because they want you as a customer for life. They want to interact with you online. They want you to stop in the store when you're in town. So that experience, that physical environment, which stimulate, you learn about the product, you see displays of the making of the capsules, I think is all part of the trend more broadly among retailers to create a reason for you to engage as a customer, both online and in store.
Okay, so there are many stakeholders in the development of a shopping experience, from policy makers to retailers to architects, developers. But who is leading that transformation? Who's the champion of it?
That's a great question because it is such a diverse ecosystem. We like to think as the placemakers, the developers, investors, architects that create those places. We like to think we're the conductor of that orchestra, but frankly, it's ultimately the customer. And the customer in our case is often the retailer by the way, when we talk about retail, we mean entertainment, leisure, restaurants, food and beverage. So that whole mix that we are responsible for creating and curating that mix. But policymakers are key. If you think about it, whether it's a city, the planners and others in the city, understanding that retail as an asset, as a physical asset, is vital to the success of their city. So at the city level, Birmingham is a great example where they recognized that and they transformed the city with many people know the bull ring. It is a story of the salvation of Birmingham. Birmingham was in an inexorable decline until this shopping center was built in the heart of the city, reconnecting the fabric of the city. So policymakers at the city level are very, very important among those stakeholders. And even at the other extreme, at the EU level, fairness between the online folks who don't pay the same council taxes, they don't pay the same rates that physical retail has to pay, have an unfair advantage. And so we, as an organization, are lobbying in Brussels to make sure that that playing field is leveled. And that's what we've done in the US as well.
You're talking a lot about shopping centres, and we've just talked about the shopping centre that revived the centre of Birmingham as well. And your name suggests that you focus mostly on shopping centres. Is that right?
Well, the name dates from the 50s when shopping centers, it's a relatively new idea. Shopping centers have only been around since the 50s. And they were a very successful business model, certainly starting in North America and then shortly thereafter in Europe, generally out of town for certainly the first 20 or 30 years. But in Europe, shopping centers are as I just described for Birmingham, the heart and soul of the city. But what we do is more than shopping centers. It's high streets, it's physical retail, as well as food and beverage, restaurants, as well as leisure and entertainment. So it's that mix of activity, of commerce, that happens sometimes in a shopping center. And it's not just Birmingham, it's Bristol, Leeds, cities across Reading, across the UK have been transformed by inserting a mixed-use thing, which we still think of as a shopping center, but is actually a mix of a range of activity that will draw you away from your screen and your iPad into a physical environment.
Now, stakeholders in shopping centres have to run their everyday business, and now you're asking them to guide the industry through a transformation as well. Where do they start?
Well, it's interesting as an industry, and I started out as an architect. Our client was the developer or the investor, and their client, the developer's client, was the retailer. So we, as the people who made the place, never really interacted with you, the customer. And I think that's the fundamental change, that we're now recognizing that we need to understand not just a, quote, customer, but the range of different expectations from millennials through people who are retired, and create environments that attract all of them and encourage them to stay longer, to spend more, and that's where the restaurants and other things come into the mix.
Now, you are a great advocate of knowledge sharing. So how does your organisation contribute to this knowledge sharing?
Well, so we have events, conferences, where people can participate in thought leadership from not just the industry people, but those who are looking at consumer behavior. Those are looking at demographic questions, so things that might not be part of the day job, but you need to understand as an investor, developer, operator of a retail place. So we bring people together. We provide that neutral environment where they can, even competitors can talk to each other and talk about the challenges and opportunities that they see going forward. So then taking what we learn, distilling that into research, formal research into those topics, and partnering with research companies and others to make sure we understand the trends that are going to shape the future.
Okay, I'm going to get you to look into the crystal ball now and tell me, what do the next 5 to 10 years of retail look like? What's the future?
Well, we are going through, as many industries are, a period of great disruption. And I think it's a marathon. I think technology is largely a driver, so technology will increasingly play a role, and by that I mean not just e-commerce, but getting the physical retailers getting to know you better. One of the advantages online has is they know all about you. They know what you bought the last time, they know where you live. If you shop at a store and you come back a week later, they don't know that. So you will see, and you may already be experiencing, that they have a way to begin to capture more information about you. And there are a lot of technology companies looking at how they can enable retailers to get to know the customer in the physical environment more closely.
Bill Kisler from ICSC, thank you so much for giving us some insights into the future of retail.
Rachel, my pleasure. Thank you.